if you're too cheap, it's not enough for the person to prioritize you. Like, you'll never get a penny more than you think you deserve.
Having skin in the game is absolutely crucial to one's success. Like, you must be all in.
I believe everybody here is meant to become the person they needed most in their darkest days.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rebecca Adahill Show. I hope that you are having the most incredible start to your week. Today, I am bringing you a conversation for my series, Voices of Impact. I am honored to introduce someone who is globally recognized in the online and business world. He is the master of reclaiming time and freedom. He is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and author of the groundbreaking book, Buy Back Your Time. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome Dan Martell to the show.
That is the best intro I've ever had, Rebecca. Thank you. I may clip that and use that for my video if you don't mind.
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate those kind words. No, it's an honor. It's a pleasure. I'm here on vacation and I wanted to make this happen, so thanks for having me.
I saw that you have just been up to Hamilton Island. I probably missed you by about 2 weeks.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
What a cool spot.
Isn't it beautiful?
I just love that we get to ride around on golf carts, or buggies as they're called there. There's that one turn, I don't know if you know, you come down the hill and it says, watch out because you can tip it. I was like, how close can I get to two wheels? Like the one that goes to the church? I tried.
Yeah.
Turns out they're harder to tip than I thought, but it was, it's a beautiful place. The kids and I loved it. And yeah, I just, you guys have so many great places to visit.
Yeah, it's amazing. I took my dad up there and I surprised him as a way to say thank you to my dad for, racing me the way he did. And he's out here on a holiday at the moment. So I surprised my dad and I took him away for a 4-night getaway, just the two of us to spend some beautiful quality time together. And it was really special.
Aw.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done that for my parents. I should probably do that. The one-on-one thing makes it special.
It was so special, and we had the gift of time.
Yeah.
The gift of
4 days
time.
is a long, things can unfold the way they need to. There's no rush.
That's it. We were sitting down, playing backgammon at night, drinking coffee at 8 o'clock at night, just having deep conversations about life. And it was really, really beautiful.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. I'm really interested to kick off this conversation. I have so many questions for you. One thing you often speak about is turning chaos into predictability. Can we unpack that? Because something that I'm seeing a lot of, in particular in business, is that a lot of entrepreneurs, they are just running in pure chaos and they can't quite break through that. Can we just unpack that?
I totally can. It's kind of a core theme in my life because I believe that most entrepreneurs that have success, there's some part of their, upbringing, usually between the ages of 12 to 15, that I ask them, if I'm speaking to audience, I always say, close your eyes and then raise your hand if between the ages of, 11 to 17, you went through some tough times, and everybody's hand goes up and I go, zero surprise, look around.
Yeah.
Because that chaos is what creates the foundation for you to be entrepreneurial, for you to be a creator, right? Because the definition of entrepreneurship is making decisions with imperfect data. And it is the most beautiful thing to watch because most founders can go to pure calmness in the chaos. The challenge is that same skill works against you when things are going good.
Yes.
Yeah, when things are actually vibrating in the right way and there's calmness and predictability, they have this bad habit of wanting to come in and throw a hand grenade into their business, because then they'll create chaos and then they'll feel needed and they'll feel certain and they feel like, now I've got a problem to solve. And what I teach people is to focus inward, because I actually think the world shows you where you're not free, if you think about it. And in those moments where you have this desire to go in and sabotage your situation, and, and I call sabotage manufacturing an issue that causes you to fail that's not your fault.
Yes.
That's what self-sabotage is. Hard to see from the outside, but if you have a good mentor like yourself, then that person should be able to tell you. And then if you understand that your desire for chaos is actually both a strength and a weakness, then you got to figure out, what do we focus on instead? And for me, it's just focus on expansion, the internal.
Yeah.
Like instead of trying to break something in your business to create chaos, go do the work inside.
Oh, that is so good.
Yeah.
Because I can see the pattern very clearly. It can be, things are just starting to flow. They're getting momentum, some form of traction. And then they're like, oh, maybe I'll pivot. Maybe I start to focus on like rebuilding my website. Or they go into like details that are so non-relevant. They will not move the needle, and the pattern, it just keeps repeating it again and again and again.
They get involved in people's work that just makes it tough for that person to win, and then they get upset the person misses their numbers, but you didn't let them do the thing that they needed to do. I mean, I see it all the time. You delegate and then you do their job for them. Like, that's weird.
Yes.
Why would you hire somebody to do a job and then do the job for them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is something that you speak about as well. You say don't hire to grow your business. You speak about hire to buy back your time. Can you elaborate on that as well? Because I think a lot of people, they think, I just want to hire my next marketing person to grow my company, or I just want to hire a Facebook's ad person, or just so I can keep on growing. What's the difference there, and how do we actually shift that mentality and that focus?
The thing that I think entrepreneurs don't understand is that a great leader, if you were to measure their leadership skills, is essentially how much I spend on labor and how much my revenue grows. And to the degree that I make an investment in labor, which is a hire, my revenue should grow. So if that's the definition of a good CEO or manager or leader, then you shouldn't hire somebody to do something that you could pay somebody else to buy back your time that's cheaper.
Yes.
That's the whole argument in my book, is become a better time trader.
Yes.
So what happens is that if I'm an agency owner and I do Facebook ads and I get busy, most people default to hire somebody to help them with the Facebook ads as their first hire.
For sure.
My argument is no, look at your calendar, figure out where you're spending your time, including making your food at home, including doing your laundry, including cleaning your house, including running errands, and hire somebody to do that work at a fraction of the cost of a Facebook marketer.
Yes.
Get your time back. You keep doing more Facebook marketing until your revenue grows to be able to support the next hire, which may be a Facebook marketer. It could be an executive assistant. It could be an account manager. But too often people don't have a strategy for hiring. So they keep adding for capacity when they don't hire to buy back their time. And what they end up doing is building a business they grow to hate. Yes,
absolutely. So how does one manage cash flow especially in the initial growth phase? And I think that's a conversation that I have a lot of. Yeah, but can I afford it? And how do you manage? Because the return may not be instant. And how does one manage that cash flow?
The truth is maybe they can't. And it's because they're not creating enough value in the world.
Yeah.
Or they're not asking for it. I mean, this is the work you talk about that I love so much, is just like your own personal worth.
Yeah.
Like you'll never get a penny more than you think you deserve.
Definitely.
So most entrepreneurs underprice because they're trying to compete on what they perceive as value, but they don't understand that sometimes the most valuable thing you could do is charge more to get the person to focus on that problem.
Yes.
So undercharging is actually the opposite of what you want as the outcome, which is get your client a result. If you're too cheap, it's not enough for the person to prioritize you.
Oh, absolutely. I had a client once who said to me, she goes, I've been watching you for 2 years. She goes, I did not invest in any of your spaces because they were too cheap. She goes, finally, you put your prices up. She goes, I'm ready to pay you in full.
Yep.
And that was such a profound moment for me, because it changed my assumption of thinking there are currently people out there who are not paying us because we are too cheap.
Yep. Your price is a feature to your product. Most people don't realize it. It tells a story, right? I mean, luxury goods is a perfect example of that. But a T-shirt could be $5. It could be $50. There's a perception that if it's 50, obviously they invested in the fabric so that it's worth 50.
Yes.
And if somebody's selling themselves for like a logo design for $500, and you're like, well, I want to create a logo that I could franchise and build a massive business against, I can't spend only $500. So they'll go to somebody that charges $50,000. Yet they could be worse in their service than you would have been as a professional logo designer with 25 years experience, but your price actually communicated lower value. And it's even just prioritizing. Like I see with agencies, if you don't charge enough, then the person won't show up for the call. They won't give you the assets you need. They won't be responsive because for them, that $5,000 a month is not a big problem.
For sure.
Charge them 15, all of a sudden now you're a priority. And I think that people pay attention when they pay. And even better than that, especially for the coaches out there, I actually believe if you charge properly, the transformation happens at the transaction. That to me is like,
oh, yes. The power of making the decision. Like, I so believe it's just so important to have skin in the game. Like, if you show up and you have a free masterclass, free value is great. Like, people can listen to this for free, but I'm such a firm believer having skin in the game is absolute crucial to one's success. Like, you must be all in. You can't be 20% in, 30% in. For me, it's all or nothing. And I've lived by that. And I put, simply because I back myself. And I think you're very much the same. Like, if you're going to do something, you want to do it really fucking well, or you're not going to do it at all.
Yeah. And I know that when I throw down to invest in something, I'm telling myself I'm worth it.
Yes.
So like on the drive over here, I was checking my Facebook messages and I had a guy I went to high school with. So I haven't seen him in 20 plus years. And he was like, congrats on everything in life. I saw that you have a new book. I'd love a signed copy of your book. Here's my address. Could you send me one? Oh. My reply to him was, I wouldn't want to rob you from you learning to invest in yourself.
Yes.
Here's the link to Amazon. And if you want a signed copy, call this bookstore. They're the only place where I sign the copies you can buy it from. But invest in yourself. I've never given copies away of my book just because somebody asked, because I need them. Like $27, whatever the book is. You're telling me you're not worth $27, buddy, you are. And I care too much about you, even though I haven't seen you in 20 years, to rob you from that opportunity. Because the probability of you reading the book, if you actually go buy it, high.
Yeah.
Of you reading it, if I send it to you in the mail, super low.
Yeah, definitely.
I care too much about you.
I've been sent books and I don't read them.
Yeah.
I literally took a bunch and I chucked them in the bin because I'm like, I'm not going to read this. I see no value in it. I think this is the third time me reading your book. Thank you very much.
I used to hurt my feelings when people say that because I'd be like, oh, I didn't explain myself right the first time, but
you did. I've listened to the audio version and then I reread it just before here because I wanted to refresh my memory. But I think it's incredible because I can now see from the first time I read your book and how I'm utilizing my VA and how I've outsourced certain parts of my personal lives that have really freed up my time. So I just want to say thank you because it's honestly had a profound impact of how I think, how I navigate, and also how I grow my business simply because the spaciousness that I now have in my life, I would not have it if I didn't read your book.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And what I love about your content you put out is you talk about this, and if I can give you more tools or ways to think about it, like I love working with people like yourself because I know you then share with them.
Yeah.
That's everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Like the more you do this stuff in the book, the more I know it gets out to all your clients. And that's the coolest thing.
Yeah. You speak a lot around stalling, and there is a very specific moment you say around the $1 million mark. You see a lot of businesses stall.
Yeah.
Why are we stalling at that moment? What are some patterns that you are seeing, and how do we actually break through that? Because something that I heard you say as well, people that choose not to grow, they are also making a conscious decision to slowly die.
100%. The math is out. Well, so first thing on the mindset side, the reason why people essentially stall or think about like, I start with nothing. I want to climb this mountain called success. And I have a vision for my life. It could be 5 million a year. It could be 10 million. It could be 3 million. Okay. And it may have been 1 million, but my gut tells me it's a little bit more if you think about like a dream. And they start climbing this ladder and it's so tough at first that they're just fighting and they're creating and they've got grit. And then eventually they start to get product market fit. They find rhythm. They find some success. And why 1 million's interesting? Because 1 million is when the person, on average, 15 to 20% profit, they get to the level of income personally that they can't even believe that they're making.
Yes.
Because it's like more than a doctor or more than anybody in their family. And what happens is now at that level, you have something to lose. So you go from fighting against having nothing for something to then being worried you'll lose what you've created. That is where the mindset has to shift. And that's the biggest problem, where I call them the big dogs in their city, right? They're like, oh, I'm a big dog. I got the nice house. I got the toys, all my, because amongst their peer group, they are.
Are they describing you now?
Well, I was I was that guy in my little town. And that was what happened, is I was like, oh, I'm successful.
Yeah.
Compared to who? Because to me, I go to potential.
Yeah.
Not compared to my potential. At 28 years old, just because I sold my company, I was a multimillionaire. That wasn't my potential. But I was in the wrong environment.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't a million. It was just like, I just set up shop and I was like, I was good. And it freaked me out so much. I actually saw my thoughts kind of pull back and kind of regress, that I, out of like freaking out of scared what would happen if I stayed there for 10 years, I actually got on a plane and moved to San Francisco. Wow. Oh yeah. I was like legit going, I can see this continuing and I don't like what I'm seeing.
So talk to me about pressure. And you have created phenomenal success, even over the past, since I first came across you. And
I might have met you right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing
We've
that
added
trajectory.
3 million followers across our social media in the last 18 months. Yeah.
It's been phenomenal to witness, but I feel that you have such conviction in you're not here to fuck spiders.
I'm not here to fuck spiders, people.
Just an off-air joke. Just going to slide it in there. But I can see the conviction. I can feel it in every part of your being, and it's really incredible to witness. But how do you hold how do you hold it? How do we keep on growing? How do you deal with the pressure you may feel internally? How do you hold it? Because I also believe, I have a feeling that you're only just getting started.
Oh, 100%. Here, if you want to go there, I'll go there, because I have some thoughts. And I think your audience would absolutely love this. And nobody talks about it, but it's 27 years of doing the work that's got me to this place where I don't need pressure anymore. So a few things. I believe that your purpose, because the challenge is, if you're doing work and it's burning you out, it's not the activity you're doing, it's the reason you're doing it that's causing the pressure. The burnout's a byproduct of not understanding why. Like in legit why. Not like why, like I want to do $1 million in revenue. It's why as in like what's the big reason? What's the why? What's the purpose behind it? Okay? Because pain is inevitable. We're gonna all run into issues and challenges, but suffering is actually optional if you have purpose. The challenge with purpose, when people go, okay, Dan, I'm on board with that, where do I find my purpose? Is that it sits next to the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And that's the problem. That's the opportunity. That's the challenge for people. I believe everybody here is meant to become the person they needed most in their darkest days. And if they do that work, they will have a sense of purpose that will pull them forward, that no pressure, no dark energy, no trying to be enoughness will ever be needed, because they'll get connected to an energy source that is just so beautiful. And that's when I say the world will show you where you're not free. The world will show you the work you have to do to find that. Like, that's what I call a divine assignment. And a lot of people are like, what is this, woo-woo energy stuff? And that's why I know your audience would love this, because that's your people, right? They get this. And if you think of purpose as doing the work, and when I say the work, I'm talking like Byron Katie, the work, like all caps, the work. It's in your trauma. It's in the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And that's a book, and it's been written. Nobody makes it unscathed. There's no person in the history of the world that's ever lived that did not go through things. The only difference is do those things drive their activities today and actions, or were those the lessons they needed to learn to become the person that can create effortlessly? Because that's what you feel. My conviction isn't confidence. My conviction is understanding of why I'm here. And that's where a lot of people that have never felt that, they think it's confidence. It's not, because that's not the right word. No. What I'm doing is expansive. What I'm doing is creating from a place of pure contribution that I just feel that it is already done. So let's go. Like I said earlier, let's do the thing. I'm just
Let's
doing
do
the thing.
You're just doing the thing. Yeah.
I'm trying to let the thing happen and not create blockage. And that's where a lot of people, if they get this book called Trauma and they just put it on the shelf, which is what most people do, and they don't open it up and study it and read it to understand who they are and what meaning they've created in their life. And then they're just going to keep repeating the same mistakes. So business will always be hard. Even buying back your time. Mechanically, you can hire an executive assistant, give them access to your inbox, or your calendar, and mechanically do that. If you don't do the work, that will cause so much anxiety in your life, so much fear. You will create pain in that person's life, in other areas of your life, because you'll feel out of control. You won't want to let go. That's where the world's talking to you and saying, hey, go process that. Go figure that out. But I think that for most people, the reason they're here is to help other people avoid the thing that hurt them the most. And if you can make that part of your life, your profession, your mission, your why, there's no pressure.
I can tell that this means a lot to you.
It's everything. Like, it's truly everything. Like the work I do with at-risk youth, because of my background and where I came from, I'm like, this is the funnest thing ever. Like, I love mentoring young men. The rich people I help get richer are cool and I like them, like, as people. But I will take an hour with a group of kids that are a little lost in life over a bunch of billionaires. Any day of the week, 0 second guessing that decision. I want to support them.
That's incredible. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You speak at the moment, I believe that you are in a season that you like to call separation season.
I am, yeah.
And I fucking love it.
Let's go.
That a lot of people are saying it's this time of year, it's time to kick back, it's time to chill.
Yeah, let them.
Then there is Dan Martell up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Let's go.
At the gym.
Yeah.
Back-to-back podcast.
Creating.
Book signing, creating.
Yeah, just in flow.
Tell me about separation season and how do we leverage that? Like, why is this important to you? Like, how can we leverage it? Why do people even slow down? And why are there a small amount of people to go, this is not the time. This is the time to leverage?
I mean, if you think about the opportunity to become more, right? Because that's really what it is. If you want more in your life, you have to become more. You don't create, you attract, period, full stop. So a couple times a year, we have the opportunity to create the moreness. And the moreness means that in a moment where the rest of the world chills out, you know, for the most part, summer and end of year, Christmas, New Year's, you make a conscious decision to separate yourself from everybody else. Not from a place of I'm better than you, but from a place of I'm doubling down on my own commitment to say I am who I am. Confidence is not something that you just go through a weekend seminar and build your confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of making decisions that are hard but consistent over long periods of time that are the opposite of what everybody else does. By definition, if you want to live an extraordinary life, you have to do things that are extra. That's why it's called extraordinary.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you do what everybody else does, then you'll have the same life as they have, which if you don't, then you have to do the opposite, which is separation season. So separation season for me is when the rest of the world decides to chill out, I double down. When the rest of the world says it's that time of year to relax and enjoy the festivities and eat what you want and, you know, not be on top of your work and all that stuff, I say, how about no? How about watch me? How about I'm going to be even more detailed. I'm going to create even more. Well, all of you guys are taking your foot off the gas. I slammed it on. I dropped my handbrake. Fuck it. I put a turbo on this car. Let's go. Like I find it so fun because if twice a year for 10 years I do that, I'm going to run laps around everybody and they're all going to ask me, and Rebecca, you get this. Like, Rebecca, what did you do to get that thing? That's so impressive. I've watched your journey. What is that thing you're doing that changed? It's not a thing. It's who I've become.
Yeah.
And when these moments twice a year for me come up, I go, this is my opportunity to expand. I don't want to miss that. I don't want to give that up. Like I consider it so precious of a time of year.
Yeah.
Now, Does that mean I'm not present with my kids? No. Does it mean that I'm not traveling the world right now? No. Does it mean that I'm not going to allow myself to make bad decisions? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like I went to Dream World all day with the kids yesterday and then played with them at night and then put them to bed and then went straight to bed.
Yes.
And got up and did my thing.
Love that.
And I don't want to get out of momentum.
It's not that you are not there with your family.
No,
it's
if
like
anything,
the
I'm
total
more
opposite.
there
Yeah.
because I have to be more present when I am.
Yeah.
Because I know that afterwards I'm going to go do my thing.
For sure. Yeah. So what are some practical things that you are focusing on now in separation season?
Well, I work on 3 parts of my life. It's, software companies is what I spend 70% of my time on. Most people don't see that because the content doesn't seem to interest people as much as it does me. So
yeah.
I'd love for it too. Maybe we'll figure out how to do that. I've been talking to Sam, my creative director.
We can talk code. If you want to speak code,
I just think innovation is cool. But, people want to talk mindset and business stuff, and that's cool. But so I have, buying companies, creating companies, and I own the largest coaching company called SaaS Academy for software as a service. But right now I'm essentially buying a company every month or incubating 1 to 2 companies every month in my Martell venture. So that's one part of my life. Kings Club, my youth stuff, like next year, this year was bananas. Just like we have 100-person theater that we sell out every 2 weeks. We mentor these kids for free. Their parents try to sneak in. I kick them out. It's awesome. Like they're
really?
yeah, all the time.
I love that.
Yeah, they hide out in the hallways, and every once in a while they're like, "Oh, I'm just checking in on my son." And I'm like, "Wait for him. He'll be out." You know what I mean? It is kind of crazy to think that like it's 15 to 22. So like these parents, I mean, they're not allowing them. They trust me. They know what I'm about. But I'm responsible for feeding some new ideas and beliefs into them. And sometimes it's against their parents' wishes.
Yeah.
It just is. Because guess what? I know my kids aren't going to listen to me. And I have people I trust that hopefully give that advice. Like this morning, my buddy Justin, who I admire, very successful guy, somebody I turn to for advice. He texts me and he goes, I was listening to a familiar voice this morning in the living room. And I looked over and my 20-year-old son is watching your videos. Thank you. And I was like, dude, if that is how I help, like, if that's my way of thanking you for helping me as mentoring, like, bring it. Like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Absolutely.
So, like, I think so, like, the youth stuff I do, and then my media thing. So, like, right now, I just ask myself, how can I create more value for everybody else in the world than anybody else in their world? That's the question.
Yes. Something else I really heard you say as well, that in the past, it always used to be the saying of it's all about who you know.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's more becoming like who knows you. And I feel like you have been very strategic in making yourself known. And I just want to unpack that because I agree that at the moment, it's really about visibility and how visible you are. People are not going to come and find you in your little corner of the world if you are not doing everything that you possibly can to get your name out there. Talk me through that.
I'll give you the blueprint and then I'll talk strategic. So what happened was about a year ago, I'm in my office and I can't talk without drawing. So I've got digital whiteboards and whiteboards in my iPad. And it was this time of year last year because I was doing strategic planning. And I was like looking at my projects for the year, my top 12 power goals and like the massive things I wanted to do. And then I was like looking at my 5-year, my 25-year and kind of like the big stuff. And I'm just like, because I always ask myself, amongst other questions, what are the skills I have to acquire? And then what are the relationships I have to develop to make the goals easier? And I was trying to come up with the leading domino, because that's like another great question to ask yourself. Like, what's one thing if you accomplish, it makes everything else absolute or obsolete or not like easier?
Easier, yeah.
And when I looked at everything I wanted to create, I realized for me to do that, it would require me to know certain things. And unfortunately, given all the time in the universe, I wouldn't be able to learn everything I would need to learn to accomplish it myself.
Yes.
Dan Martell, I couldn't do it. So that meant I would need to know the best person in the world who could solve the biggest problems, not only for my companies, but for companies I've invested in or friends of mine I want to create value for. And then when I looked at that like list of things I'd need to learn or overcome or challenges, and me having to be able to know those people, and then the biggest thing was, and them want to take my phone call. I'm talking like the heads of any company. Like, what would need to be true for Tim Cook at Apple to take Dan Martell's phone call? Well, he'd have to know who I am. I'd have to add value to his life. I know. Because once you know this, that's why I went so hard in the paint on media, because there's only two ways to create value. It's I either entertain you, let's call that Mr. Beast, Ryan Reynolds, etc., The Rock, or I educate you. And that would be Hermosi, Sanchez, Steven at DOAC, like all Gary Vee, all the well-known people. And I was like, that's obviously my lane. And then I had to pick, like, who did I want to serve and how did I want to serve them? And I said, let's go in. So we have an unlimited budget. That's why I say separation for season for me right now is creating value for other people more than any other person in their world. How do I do that? I have a lens on it. The feedback's there in regards to our analytics and our growth and our views. I mean, we did 140 million views last month, 1 month. That's bananas.
That's insane.
Isn't it crazy? And our goal is to do 1 million in the next, or 1 billion in the next 12 months. So when you start doing 1 billion views, it's almost impossible for a Ronaldo, Messi to not see your content.
Yeah.
Okay. Or my buddy Justin's 20-year-old son. So like, I just trust in the universe that if I wake up to try to add value, that when I need a conversation with a Mr. Beast or Ryan Reynolds, that I will be in their awareness, that they'll be open at least to take a quick phone call or at least have somebody on their team reach out to me. And knowing that I can solve any problem allows me to push even harder in the creation of everything I want to do. And that was why I was like, this is the force multiplier.
Like, what are the chances that X person is going to pick up the phone if I call? And how can I make myself visible? Like, that is such a profound question. And everything else will fall into place.
And let me tell you what fell into place. I get introduced to John Maxwell, the leadership GOAT. We're now friends. I was texting with him yesterday. He invited me to speak at his event. That happened. I get an email from Tony Robbins' team. They asked me to speak at Business Mastery. That happened. I start working with Patrick Bet-David as a coach. He doesn't coach people. Why'd he say yes? He liked what he saw. Like, there's all these things that it's not even like, is there a project plan and a to-do list and a Gantt chart and a system to do this? No. This is energetics. This is positive expectation. This is holding beliefs, right? I call it the rule of 300%, 100% clarity, 100% belief, 100% of the time. To the degree that you can hold those three, you pull into your life. I just went to the end and just said, what needs to be true? I designed it, and I'm just holding that belief. And then I do the thing. What is the thing? It's the thing. It's the thing you don't want to do that you should do.
Love that. That's incredible. So your even approach to marketing, you speak about eco-marketing, and I feel like your approach is quite different. Like, you don't create content, like you capture.
So good.
And I think a lot of business owners, they sit down and they do their content creation for the week.
This is how I do my thing, and this is how I do my other thing, and this is,
Yeah. What's the difference here?
So different. First off, I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have an assistant.
Yeah.
And that's like, it comes back to this, not because I care if anybody reads the book. Honestly, if anybody wants like my internal process for managing my executive assistant, I'll just give it to them. So if they follow me on Instagram, Dan Martell, 2 L's Martell, follow me there, message me the word EA Rebecca. If you don't say Rebecca, I'm not sending it to you, period, full stop. I will send you my internal Google Doc, like direct link to it. It's sanitized, cleaned up. Because if you don't get your time back, content's hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't even try to do content if you're still spending 6 hours a day in your email. So I'll give everybody that. What's unique about the way I do it, I call it capturing within containers.
Yes.
This is the part that's different that allows me to do it where there's no effort. So what happens is most people go to create content. I ask myself, where in my calendar can I capture? So can I capture while I do my founder's hike on Tuesday morning? Can I capture at the gym mentoring young men? Can I capture on a board call? Can I capture on a coaching call? Can I capture driving in my car answering questions? Can I capture at our leadership training? Can I, like, there's all these, if people just look at their calendar and said, okay, my audience wants to learn this from me. Where am I already doing this? And can I just capture?
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, that capture is probably not interesting because it's not structured in a way that's for the audience.
Yes.
Right now it's selfish because you're just going to capture you. It's like vlogs, right? People are like, I'm going to do a vlog. Nobody gives a crap about your life.
For sure.
I don't care if you're worth $300 million.
Yeah.
You recording your life adds zero value to the other person. Will you have voyeuristic people that want to look because they're nosy people? 100%.
Yeah.
But it won't get virality because it's not either entertaining enough or it's not, there's no value for them. So then I go to the container side. So the container is, how do I create the container for the capture in a way that's valuable for the audience?
Yes.
So for example, Sam, my creative director, who's here with me, travels with me everywhere. I mean, you got to invest in a team. He looked at what I was doing with youth in my community and he said, hey, the King's Club program's cool. The challenge is you teaching doesn't create the content that we can clip up to go viral.
Yes.
What would need to change is the format. So what happened is we took an hour of mentoring that I used to do. We changed the structure to a 20-minute teach, a Q&A, and this really smart thing he did, which I absolutely loved in all my viral videos. So again, I think God gives you feedback when you're doing good things. Okay. So pay attention to what goes viral and double down on that. But what we changed was, so the Q&A content really well, but we had to add the extra angles of footage. So we had to shoot in a certain location. So we changed the location. So again, that's a container.
Yeah.
The calendar had that. It just, here's the new location. Here's the 3-camera setup, which sounds like a lot of work. And it might be, but it's an hour every 2 weeks. Okay. So it's not a lot.
Yeah.
And then what he did, because the Q&A out on the sidewalk with a bunch of kids around in front of a supercar, just as you can imagine, does really well. What I know, crazy idea. He's such a genius. I think young men really want to see supercars and talk about success. So the way we did it, because the first time we did it, the kids were kind of like, didn't know what to ask. I said, I got an idea. And before I finished inside the theater where I do my like kind of mentoring, and then we went outside to the car, I said, everybody write down the one question you would ask me if we had 20 minutes at a coffee shop. Write it down. I'll give you 2 minutes. And all the kids wrote it down. I said, here's what we're going to do now. We're all going to head out for the car show. We do a little supercar show after. I said, the first 10 of you that come up to me and ask me your question, I'll let you sit and start the car. Boom. It was like, I walked out the door, just like the Pied Piper. They ran after me and they were like, ding, ding, ding. I go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where'd you come from? Sit. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and that's why if you look at
moment,
and those kids literally are sitting there and they're like, oh, Dan, if you could go back and tell yourself what, and I'm like, this is what I would tell you. And then I go, cool, go in the car. And they're like, oh, and they run in the car. One girl started crying. I was like, can you please? She was just jumping
you're
up.
like, okay, I'm
like really emotional right now. You can go sit in the car, ask somebody to take a video, take a picture, call your parents. I don't know. You're so cute. Like just go enjoy the car. And it's just, but that's an example of container. Right? Or like our leadership training, I do it every Monday. We had to change the structure so there was a little bit more Q&A because that does really well versus just teach. And and I think a lot of people,
it's like slight little tweaks I'm seeing.
It's the thing I'm already doing. I just tweak it. Even my board meetings are different. And I record it all. I literally have 3 cameras on my desk. I have a team with me. I don't diminish the capture, but I do look at the capture to usage ratio.
Yes.
Because I think it's wasteful to have somebody capture content you're not going to do anything with. So that's where there has to be a feedback loop with your video person. And they got to tell you like, hey, when you said this, awesome. You went off for too long in this other story. Next time, pull it back a little bit. Or you said this thing last week in a podcast, bring it back. Like there's these really interesting ways to co-create with a video person that I think a lot of people miss out on. That is how the content elevates and elevates and elevates. And the numbers don't lie. If you do it right, it gets virality. If you don't, your numbers go sideways.
For sure. I saw you said in a keynote that a lot of business owners, they brag about how little time they've spent on something and how little content they create. And you're like, fuck that, you're lazy. Like I
used to be that guy, just so you know. Like that, this is the problem is
there's a mirror here. Like,
I used to be the person that would brag about creating 90 days worth of content in 2 half days a quarter. And I'd be like, look how efficient I am. And I was surprised that my YouTube numbers never changed. Like, duh. I was bragging about little bit of effort. It's like those, I call them entrepreneurs, right? They're like, yeah, I do 100K a year and I only work 4 hours a day. It's like you're bragging about how little you work instead of flipping the whole thing and saying, how do I create an environment where I'm continuously expanding? See, I think business is really about, first off, being the ultimate self-development program. I think entrepreneurship is that 100% if you choose to engage in that, or buckle on because it's going to be a painful roller coaster. And then once you get that rhythm of your own stuff, it's the environment for you to develop other people.
Yeah.
Like business, it's a people game.
Yeah.
I mean, I always joke like business would be easy other than people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So easy.
Yeah.
But I actually think when you flip the thing you sell, instead of the product being the thing you sell, the product being the business, and your job is to create the product called the business, the organization, the culture, it actually makes it a lot more fun and it makes the challenges worth them. Because here's what I've learned. You've never grown when things were good.
Yeah.
No person has ever gotten better when skies were blue.
For sure.
Like you have to look forward to those challenges. The size of your problems tell me the size of your life.
Yes.
So if you want a bigger life, this one's going to be scary for people. Ask for bigger problems. Because if you're stuck with $100 problems being the bane of your existence and you can't get past that, nobody's giving you $1,000 problems. You know what I'm saying? And $10,000 problems, if a $10,000 problem ruins your month, you ain't getting $100,000 problems. And don't even think about $1 million problems or $10 million problems, period, full stop. You just will never be presented opportunities that are that big because God's going, oh, still learning. Can't figure it out.
Still learning.
Not there yet. Too bad.
So what I believe you're saying here is that we, number one, if we're feeling the fear, the challenges, we need to run towards them.
Your capacity for growth lives at your extremities. And if you run away, especially if you use that burnout language, right when you're about to have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Oh, what a sad moment. You had an opportunity to have a breakthrough, but instead you decided to retreat.
I often say when, you know, the feelings when you're like, fuck, I'm up against it right now.
Yeah.
This challenge after challenge, and you just feel like you're just hitting a brick wall. I always pause and sit in complete gratitude. And I say, thank you for showing me where my threshold of expansion is. Thank you for allowing me the emotions and the challenges to be guided through this. It's such a profound moment where I just sit in it. I don't try to avoid it. I don't try to even rush through it. It's like,
just
thank you for
it.
showing me and who I need to become, what I need to let go of, the shedding that needs to take place in order for me to even keep moving forward.
It's the caterpillar into the butterfly. And instead they want to like pretend like it's not happening. And guess what? It won't that time. And then it'll happen again. Like that's how the world works. When I say it'll show you where you're not free, you'll keep doing the homework until you learn the lesson. You may not ever learn it and your time here on earth will come and go, but that's your work to do. And if your complexity ceiling is 100,000 a year, that's what it is. But the only way for it to become 1 million or 10 million or more is you to do the work.
Yeah. And I think it's what's really cool here as well. And, you know, you're making the example of $100 problem or, you know, 1,000 or 10 million, like regardless of what level that is, I feel like we also really need to honor the level that we're currently at, because is there a such thing of realizing where you're at currently and almost like setting the bar too high? Like, do we need to meet ourselves where we're at? Is there like an upward spiral when it comes to professional and personal growth?
The truth is that it is unlimited and as expansive as you'll allow it to be. The person that can tap into that and stay in that energy is very rare. And you meet them where they just have this level of like what to other people would see as luck, right? You ever meet a really rich person and you kind of go, they're not even that smart. They're not.
Totally.
You know what they are?
Yeah.
They're blissfully successful. And their view on the world is so rose-colored. My buddy Trent, I love this guy. Man, that guy just sees everything through rose-colored glasses. You can't upset him. He thinks we're all the best dads. I mean, he started a company, sold it, did another one, sold it. Like, he's so wealthy and the easiest flowing dude. And if you met him, you'd think he's like a hippie. Like he's just, and I'm like, dude, I hope to someday get into the Trent flow of just like everything is awesome. Like that Lego movie, you know, everything. That's Trent. When I see Trent, I go, everything is awesome. He's like, yo, bro, best dads ever. And he's dabbing me up. And I'm just like, one time I asked him, I was like, have you ever had to like fire somebody? Like if somebody's not performing, what do you say to them, Trent? And he goes, oh, bro, I just say like, hey, man, it'd be really cool if you tried a little harder. And I was like, shut up, dude. You don't, like, how have you done this? And I find out it's his wife, Trent, or Rhea, that comes in and fires a person. And, yeah.
I've read a book called Surrounded by Idiots. I don't know if you
I read that too, the colors,
and
right?
He's a yellow. He's such a yellow. It's like it can be pouring rain. He was like, oh, my lawns will be so happy for this. And everything is just bliss.
It's that energy though. It's and that's what I'm saying is when you can get grateful for the size of your problems, like true gratitude. Like I when I have one, I'm like, ooh, we're the adversary. This is cool. This is fun. Cause like the size of your problems or the size of the villain, like if you ever watch a Marvel movie or whatever, like a superhero movie, right now they're making these things so ridiculous. Like Megatron, multiverse, bad guy, literally one blink of the eye can take out the whole universe, whatever. Like they're just so implausible because they have to make them big because the bigger the monster, the bigger the villain, the bigger the hero.
Yeah.
So in many ways, when you have these really unique, different first time problems, I just get curious and go like, "Ooh, this is cool." Ooh. Like never dealt with this one. Gonna go hit Chat GPT. Let's go learn some stuff. Sure. I don't know. Please AI, tell me what I should do. But I don't wish it wasn't happening because I realize that, and this is a big one, that oftentimes the things we go through get us ready to receive what we've been asking for. Like I just believe that.
So do I.
Oh, you look back in your life and it makes perfect sense. How does it make perfect sense? How did I go through that at 15 that taught me this thing to get me ready to deal with this challenge at 17, at 21, at 30? Like you literally look back and it's like a movie script. Yeah. But everybody's is. The funny part is it makes perfect sense that way. The ironic part is we have to live it that way. So if you know, looking back, it makes perfect sense and just know that the old days are the today of today. You know what I mean? Yeah. That it'll all make sense. Yeah. So I just get like super cool with what it is. It's not good or bad. It just is.
Yeah. It's very easy to connect the dots looking back.
Oh, it's almost like, it's almost like it was created. Like, I can't believe I learned to code and then that allowed me to be valuable here and do this thing here and write this book here. That's crazy. Why did I write that book? I'm a software guy. I didn't write a software book, a productivity book, but it's all based on systems and processes I learned as designing architecture as a software guy. Perfect.
So how important is faith?
To me, it's everything.
Talk to me about that.
I'll get it. It's my everything. I get emotional because I really wish other people had a better relationship with their creator and whoever that is for them. I honestly have zero direction on that. It just makes life a lot full spectrum. Like most people, if you think of the concept of light has 7 different spectrums of light that makes it white, light, sunlight. If you're missing one, then you have a color. And people that don't have faith will never have that full spectrum source. They'll either be purple or orange or green because they're missing that color. And I just, for me, I know why I'm here. I know how I got here. I know what I'm supposed to do here. And faith is the foundation. And faith even as a concept of having belief in things you can't see. And like often people, not often, but people every once in a while challenge me because they're like, oh, I'm atheist. I said, that's cool. I said, I totally respect that. I know you don't believe in God, but I bet you sure do miss him. To me, faith is the belief of a future that is better. And when I got out of rehab at 17 and they told me to have blind faith because I didn't trust anybody. And they say, if you work the program works. I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, just have some faith. And they were right. And every time I've just learned to let go, that was usually the right answer. When I tried to control too much, there was no light. You're in a relationship with a spouse and you're trying to go on this growth journey and they're not following you fast enough and you like reach down to try to pull them up. Well, that's not going to work. There's no compassion or light in that. There's your frustration that they're not growing at the same pace. It's not their job to.
No.
My belief is nobody has to change for me to win.
Oh.
Zero. That takes faith.
I used to see the pattern within myself that the controller in me used to be really big. And I used to try to control every situation, every outcome, every person around me. And I can really see where that pattern's coming from. And a very distinct moment in my childhood. And like
you needed it.
I definitely needed it. So like I'm grateful for the controller in me at the time, but the controller in me today is doing me no good. So I had to sit down with myself and go, what are you really afraid of, Rebecca? And when you get so honest with yourself, what you are afraid to lose, you can't turn to anything but faith. And that is the real moment of surrendering, to completely letting go. And I had a very distinct moment a couple of years ago where I felt that I was trying to control every part of my life and failing big time. And I had a moment, I was walking into the gym and something just came over me. I just let it go. And I have never felt so free in my entire life like I did that moment. And I'm not surprised seeing what's unfolded from that point, simply because I made the choice. And I don't know what came over me in that moment, but it genuinely changed my life because I let go of the need I felt to control everything around me. And in that moment, I felt the ultimate control simply because there was no need.
You get to be.
You get to be.
Yeah, that's the big thing. People are too busy doing.
Yeah.
You ever see the movie Usual Suspect? It's like this guy, and at the end, there's like this like big reveal. He's a criminal. He like walks out, and all of a sudden, they realize the guy they were interviewing is actually the bad guy, Kaiser Sose.
Me in movies, but yeah, please continue. Yeah.
But the idea is, and this is why Buy Back Your Time is such a important book for me, is that I wrote the book to allow people the space to do the work, to discover their beingness. But they all bought it to improve their doingness.
Well, they did. Suckers. Yeah,
Literally,
100%.
that's the funny part for me.
Yeah.
Is it's number one in the productivity category.
Yeah.
Because they want to do more.
I've had a request from someone asking me for you to unpack a couple of things, and I'm curious as well. One is the 1-3-1 rule that I found very effective. I used it on myself, used it on my coaching clients. I think it works in any situation. Talk me through that.
So the 1-3-1 rule for me is the number one tool to actually get free of controlling your people. And the truth is the people that should be solving the problems are the one closest to the problem.
Yes.
And most CEOs try to insert themselves and they think they're being helpful, but they're actually being harmful because they're teaching their team that they can't make a decision and that they don't trust them. So the 1-3-1 is something I use in all areas of my life, even with my kids, my wife, my business partners, is that if you have a problem that truly is a problem, do a little work before you come see me. And the work is, what's the one problem you're trying to fix? That alone, most people don't realize a well-defined problem is half solved. The second part to that is 3 viable options. And the reason why is, as an entrepreneur, I don't care if you make a decision. I care that you thought through the other options.
Yes.
Because that's what we do. If I'm going to spend $10,000 to solve a problem, I just want to know you considered the other options.
Yes.
So the other 3 viable options is what they feed back to me. And then the last part of the 131, the 1, is what's your 1 recommendation? So when they come to me and they go, hey, we got to hire 70 people this quarter and we've never done it and I feel a little overwhelmed. And I go, what problem are you trying to solve? They're like, well, we got to hire people. Is that the problem, hiring? They're like, well, no, we got to hire great people. And I was like, okay, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Well, what's your 131? They don't know it.
Yeah.
And I usually just ask them to do you need a day to figure this out? And then just come back to me. And they're like, yeah. One time I had this chief HR person, recruiter, Adam, come to me and he was overwhelmed. And I said, what's your 131? He's like, you're really doing this to me right now? And I go, yeah, this is protocol. He says, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I said, well, do you want to just come back to me same time tomorrow? He said, cool. I said, cool. Tomorrow, 2:00, call me and we'll talk about it. 10 a.m. he sends me a text message. I'm good. He didn't need me. He just needed to I don't know, some people maybe they're victimhood or they've never worked in an environment where they felt empowered.
Yeah.
But I push down decisions to frontline workers. That's why I have this rule of 50 to fix it. If you can solve a problem for less than $50, just do it. As long as you tell your leader that you did it, but after you do it. And then managers, it's 500, directors is 5,000, and C-level is 50,000.
Yeah.
So I have people come to me and they're like, hey, Dan, I want to do this thing. I go, dude, you're the CFO. It's less than 50 grand. I trust you.
Yeah. Go do it.
Really? You're going to let me do that? Yeah. And if you do 2 bad decisions in a row, we'll have a conversation about it. But I'm not going to stop you from, I want momentum. And I think those are the kind of cool leadership strategies that I wrote about in my book, because at each chapter, I try to solve the next problem you're going to run into.
Yes.
And that's one of them later. That's why it's in the hacks section.
So my final question for you, Dan, and I think if you're talking about, and I can very much see myself reading your book, and I know that a lot of our listeners, if you haven't read Dan's book, make sure that you go and get yourself a copy, and I will put all of his details in the show notes.
Thank you.
But when we go from 7 to 8 figures, I would love to hear what are 3 key components, areas that are absolutely essential to focus on to kind of go from the 7 to 8 figure mark.
Number 1 is you need to hire drivers. And drivers are people that are going to make the world better even if you're not around. The problem with drivers for most CEOs, if they don't understand compensation, is they don't create an environment where that type of talent would want to do that for you because they could do it for themselves. So you need to be willing to give up part of the upside of their creation, of what value they bring, part of that drive. So even, my creative director, Sam, his comp is base, his variable is on our social media growth. So his compensation is unlimited.
Yeah.
If he wants to grow to 10, 100 million next year, game on, I will write him that check. I know what that's worth. So number 1, hire drivers. Number 2 is optics. Most people don't have the information systems, the reporting, the quality of data to be able to grow. And what happens is when you're trying to fix marketing, you're talking about a thing called an MQL, a marketing qualified lead, and you haven't defined that, or the CRM has double dupe entries, or there's no attribution. And then the sales team is saying the marketing team is sending us bad leads. And then the customer success team saying who sold them this thing and it's custom and we don't do that. And where's the notes in the CRM? So reporting has to be locked and loaded, subscription management, support systems, customer. So the optics side. And then I would say the third part is the person who's the CEO has to go become better. And it's not just be better. It's understand that the business will only grow to the level of the growth of the leader. It's called the law of the lid. John Maxwell wrote about this in his book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And most CEOs that get to that 2 million, they're feeling really good about themselves and they think everybody else has to get better. Nobody else has to get better, buddy, lady. You got to go get better. And you have to get think about this. You can't even call yourself a leader if you don't have followers.
Yeah.
By definition, you're not a leader. And I think a lot of people that are CEOs are only by title. And the only reason people are on that team is because you're paying them.
Yeah.
When you can get to a place where who you are and how you behave is something people that are talented admire and will literally take a pay cut to come work on your team because of who they see and what they believe you can create in their future and your future and what you're going to do. That's when you've actually built a place that's worth going from 2 to 10. Other than that, that 2 to 10 slog is painful. You can maybe do it. It might take you 5, 10 years, or you can do it in a year if you're willing to go do the work.
Last quick one. You said there is no one else that needs to get better. You have to get better. And you often speak about reaching a level of mastery and continuously working on getting better and better and better. How do we do that?
Well,
what do we commit to?
Oh, I love that question. This is my core philosophy on life, because people talk about happiness. I'm not a fan of happiness. I'm a fan of fulfillment. I want to feel fulfilled. I'm not happy when I go to the gym, but I feel fulfilled afterwards for doing what I didn't want to do and, doing the work. And I think people want to feel useful, right? Spending 6 months on a beach by yourself drinking Mai Tais, you're going to get really bored really quick because you're going to feel like, what's the purpose? So fulfillment is what I'm after. Here's what I believe creates fulfillment in people's lives. 1, become the person you needed most in your darkest days, the 10.0 version of yourself. And that's the way I describe it. Take your best moments, your most courageous and funny and graceful and like all the best times in your life, put them all together in a day, do that every day. That's 10.0. You might never get there, but strive to become that person. That's step 1. Step 2 is give yourself to the world. And your world could be your kids, but do the work. I think most parents have shown their children that it's okay to give up on their dreams. And they're screaming at them to say, hey, go follow your passions. And they're looking at you going, but you're not. You know what I'm saying? So I think ideally your world is your community, is your city, your country, social media. I think that's the most beautiful place we live. And I think that if you wake up every day trying to be the best version of yourself and share yourself with the world, you will live a life of fulfillment. You have no idea how beautiful it is.
Thank you for spending this time with me, for your wisdom, for your leadership, for your heart, for your authenticity. Thank you for taking the time. I'm so grateful to have had this time with you. I am going to put all of Dan's details in the show notes. And thank you so much for tuning in to my show for another week. And I cannot wait to be back here next week for another show. Thanks again, Dan. I so appreciate you.
It's an honor. Thanks, Rebecca.